universe requires that we begin to believe in it. It cannot produce its good in our lives until we begin to believe in it. And to begin to believe, we must look out upon it, look out beyond ourselves and behold the magnificence, the beauty, the power that everywhere exists and is natural to us and available to us. But to look out beyond ourselves, we know is not enough. We must also look within ourselves, because that's where we will find it, in the silence of ourselves. To go within, we will find it there. Vision comes when I'm alone, abandoned to imagination. Your mind has an eye that can see beyond time and space. That is what we call imagination. But imagination is more than the application of that great faculty to wander aimlessly around in little imaginings. No, this is a power faculty that must be used consciously, deliberately, and wisely. And that power will produce for us all the beauty that we can behold with it, all the good that we can see with it. It's the faculty of the mind that can conceive. It's the conceptual faculty of the mind. And whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, begin to feel excited about, accept as being true, that it can achieve. Do you believe that? But you see, believing it is not doing it. It must be done. It must be practiced. It must be utilized. Many people believe it and go wandering along having the same old, unexciting day-to-day experiences, all the while saying, I believe. I believe. You know, it's vain to live on trifles when God wants to give us something tremendous. That's vanity. Zane Porter said, our griefs as well as our joys owe their strongest colors to our imagination. There's nothing so grievous to be borne that pondering upon it will not make it heavier. And there's no pleasure so vivid that the animation of fancy cannot enliven it. And Henry Ward Beecher said, the soul without imagination is what an observatory would be without a telescope. But you see, your soul does have imagination. There's no person without it, because it is a faculty of the mind. It isn't sometimes used, and only rarely is it used consciously and with feeling. We have not yet learned, you and I, to employ it on a continuing basis so that it might be our guide to prosperity. And by prosperity, do I mean just money? Of course I don't. To prosper means to thrive, to flourish. It means to move forward into creative and meaningful activities and to see those actions bear fruit in many areas of our lives. You know, nature is prosperous everywhere that you see it. And it's always active and always bearing fruit, and you can see energies flowing and events unfolding in nature. And every person, every one of us should likewise be prospering in every corner of our lives. Because after all, are you not a very important part of the natural universe? And if there's one of us here not prospering, then that means that we're not in tune with the life process. And the principles that we've been coming to understand and practice in this series of lessons on prosperity are merely principles that put us in tune, in harmony with the orderly, progressive movement of the universe, of the stars, of the galaxies. Because you are a star. You are a star. You may not have believed it, and in your own imagination you may not yet have risen above the horizon of your life, but you are a star. And you should live like one and experience like one. And you can. You see, it's natural to prosper, but it is not natural to be stifled and restricted or drifting along in a nothing is happening situation. Have you found yourself recently caught up in a nothing is happening to me? Poor me, why isn't it happening to me? Should be. And a truly spiritual person is automatically prosperous because such a person is in tune with nature and is seeing an orderly working out of their destiny in every corner of their lives. If there's stagnation, lack or want in some corner of your life, it need not be that way longer than it takes you to settle down into prosperity. I should say settle up. To prosper is to be in health in all aspects of one's being. Emotional, mental, physical, social, spiritual. But spiritual health comes first. All else follows. There are no real or lasting or permanent answers except at the spiritual level of life. And here in these classes we're dealing with spiritual principles, not makeshift intellectual programmings that will, for a moment here and there, rearrange the furniture in the living room of our lives. But we're talking about changes at depth and understanding and the practicing of exciting new principles that change our lives from the inside out. And we need not wait until we have learned all about these principles for a final realization. The moment that you begin to practice any one of these principles, you'll begin to see miraculous things happening in your world. And so many of you are coming to me now, day after day, calling me and telling me with great excitement about the things that are happening to you. Why, you're hardly started, and just look what's happening. Think how it will be next week and next month and next year. Now, last week we talked about how to begin to release restricting concepts and feelings, how to let go of those old ideas that were limiting us. In order to release them, though, we had to see them, and then we had to speak to these ideas. We had to speak the word, nay, nay, no, no, cancel, cancel. And sometimes, try as we will, we cannot prosper because we're holding on to restricting concepts about our lives that were built into us from our early days and even from our religious background. For example, we may believe and feel, really feel, that suffering builds character. I know some people that feel very guilty when they stop suffering, and they turn right around and look for something to suffer about so they won't feel so guilty, so that they'll have great character. After all, doesn't God want you to suffer? Who told you that? Sackcloth. We may feel that by accepting limitation now we will prove worthy of freedom and everlasting happiness later on, up there. We may fear prosperity because we doubt our ability to be responsible. It is so easy to settle down into one's misery. Sometimes so difficult to move out into a new and threatening experience of happiness. But we must do it. And we do it by beginning to change our mind. The mind is like a screen, and through that screen our consciousness is filtered. And so we must be sure the mind is clear and free of any distorted concepts. For every distorted concept that you have in your mind, you will have a distorted experience or relationship in your life. Did you know that? If you've got an idea that's turned wrong side out, you're going to have an experience that's turned wrong side out. And so we're changing these limiting concepts. We're letting go of these old ideas. We're canceling them out so that our consciousness can flow without interference. And as we grow, we learn to use our mind at progressively higher levels. And the story of our Bible is really the teaching of how to use our minds at progressively higher levels so that each one might become a master. You are a master. You were created to achieve mastery of your mind. And one can never experience mastery of their outer circumstances until they have taken charge of the forces that lie within themselves. And yet everyone is rushing to and fro, trying to be in charge of something out there. Is that not correct? Look at the people reaching for power, power over other people, political power, social power, financial power. And the only power lies within. Let's go back to Genesis and back to Jacob, whose name means supplanter, the supplanter. Now, Jacob was Isaac's second son. And Jacob and his older brother Esau represent man's physical and mental nature. Now, Esau was born first. He was the firstborn. And he was covered by a hairy mantle. That's what his name means. And Esau represents man's physical nature. And man's physical or lower or sensual nature is born first, is it not? Is that not the first son born? Now, Jacob came in Isaac's old age, and his name means supplanter. It means that he is the one that supplants the purely physical person. And he represents the mental nature of man. And if we're going to achieve what we wish to achieve from life, we're not going to experience it at our purely physical, natural, sensual level, are we? You think you're going to achieve what you want from hard work? Man whose breath is in his nostrils? No. Man who says, give me mine, get out of the way. I'll get mine first. That person is not going to achieve it. The person without imagination or feeling or concern for other people, that is Esau, the firstborn. And Jacob comes along and supplants him. And Esau and Jacob, brothers, were in constant conflict with each other. And this represents the conflict in us between our instinctive and mental faculties. Two entirely different sets of ideas and concepts and activities. And if you look at your life, you'll see that a great many of your problems have come from the Esau in you, the firstborn. But in the end, Jacob prevails or supplants that consciousness. But do you think that we're going to gain our prosperity by purely mental faculties alone? Man who can outmaneuver other people? Who can outsmart them? Jacob was pretty good at that. Read the story and you'll see how he overcame his more stolid and less intelligent brother, Esau. But in the end, Jacob was supplanted himself by man's spiritual nature. And Jacob also had another victory over Laban, his father-in-law. It's a beautiful story. I wish I had time to go into it completely, but I don't. And this came about through the creative use of Jacob's imagination. When Jacob, the mental person, got into a lot of trouble through the incorrect use of his imagination. It caused him a lot of hardship. And he became really in bondage to his father-in-law. And his father-in-law took great advantage of him and profited greatly at Jacob's expense. But in the end, Jacob, through the creative use of his imagination, turned that around. Now, at one point along the way, Laban said to Jacob, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything," meaning, I no longer am looking for my good at this level or from persons or places or from this situation. And then through the use of his creative imagination, and you can read the story in the 30th chapter of Genesis, he outmaneuvered Laban and gained control of the flocks. And thus the man grew exceedingly rich and had large flocks, maidservants, men servants, and camels and asses. Everything that had been denied him, he experienced, he achieved by taking control of the creative forces of his consciousness, especially his imagination. Hard work and honesty alone will not get it. Perish the thought. That person who still lives in their sense consciousness, the natural man, will never experience the wealth that the Father has in store for him. That person must learn to take charge of their inner faculties, especially the faculty of imagination. Imagination is the missing ingredient in almost every failure. And it's the catalyst of every success. It's always there when you find success. Now, Jacob, in time, became the whole person. Not only did he become wealthy in ways of the world, in the material things of the world, but he became wealthy in the highest of all ways. He was an early form of a perfected person, an I am or Christ-like person. And his name was changed to Israel. It was changed from Jacob to Israel, and the changing of the name always identifies in the Old Testament a person who has achieved this high state of spirituality and the ability to function at this higher level. One who has achieved an early form of the Christ consciousness. And now hear this. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. In the Old Testament, the 12 sons of Jacob are the equivalent of the 12 disciples of the Christ. Meaning that Jacob, whose name is now changed to Israel, is in full mastery of his spiritual forces and is establishing a new consciousness all around him, and no power outside him has any mastery over him at all. And he's demonstrating all the good that was formerly denied him. And so Jacob did. And not only that, but he became the leader of a whole new group of followers that became Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. This is the history of the family of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was shepherding the flocks with his brothers. And Joseph brought an ill report of them to their father. His brothers were goofing off out in the fields tending the sheep and goats. And Joseph came back and told on them. Joseph represents, and the name means one who represents, the faculty of imagination in a person. And the faculty of imagination always reports what it sees. Aha. And he came back and reported to his father what he saw. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his children because he was the son of his old age. Maturity. You'll find that the controlled use of your imagination will not come until some spiritual maturity has been achieved. Until that time, we use the imagination negatively, sensually, critically, judging by appearance. And he made him a long robe with sleeves. That's the robe of many colors. Have you heard about it? Now, what do you see with your imagination when you close your eyes? What did you see tonight? You saw many colors, many forms, many shapes. The imagination is that faculty of the mind that can hold before it that which is not there and can actually see in color that which does not exist around you, the robe, the mantle of many colors and forms and shapes. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. The other uncontrolled forces resisted the activity of this newly spiritualized power. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they only hated him the more. And he said to them, "Hear this dream which I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Are you indeed to have dominion over us?" And so they hated him yet more for his dreams and for his words. If you will observe yourself in your mind, you will see that the faculty of your imagination literally controls all of the other powers of your mind. It controls your speech. Controls John of love. And they do not wish to bow down to it in one whose mind is disorganized. And so Joseph, in his unwise use of the imagination, got himself into trouble. His brothers almost killed him, but then his unwise words caused him to be sent off into bondage, captivity in Egypt. Is there anyone here whose imagination has ever gotten them into trouble? The unwise use of their imagination? No? One here? And then it happened again and again. You bet. We all know about that, don't we? It happened to, this is such a beautiful story. And finally, Joseph got sick and tired of what was happening to him, and he wised up. And he began to control his imagination. And through the very faculty that had caused him so much trouble, he came free. And in due time was second in command of all of Egypt, second to the Pharaoh himself. And through the creative use of his faculty of imagination, he saved them from the famine. He saved the whole nation and other nations. A beautiful, beautiful story about your faculty and mine in the book of Genesis. Now, image. The word image means, according to Mr. Webster, a likeness of a person, animal or thing. A mental picture or representation, an idea or conception. Imagine means to form a mental image of something not actually present to the senses. Here again is this fantastic power that you have that can form a mental image of something that isn't here. You don't see it. And not only is it there to you, but you can color it or flavor it or reshape it or let it change its form and size. And not only that, but you have the power to react to it emotionally.
This concludes Side A. Now, please fast forward to the end and turn the cassette over for the continuation of Prosperity Principles That Work.
Our problems have come because of our negative use of the imagination. Example, some of you mothers will understand this. It's 11 o'clock at night and your child isn't home yet. Your child is 24 years old. And there's a siren in the distance. And the imagination. Or there's a rustling sound, and you know that it's someone at the front door or in the basement. Or someone did not speak to you in fellowship hall. They were quite concerned with something going on inside themselves. They did not see you, so they did not speak. But the imagination says, they saw me, I saw them see me. And all the way home, you do not see the beauty around you all the way home. You see the person not seeing you in fellowship hall, And you hear yourself saying what you're going to say to them the next time because you've been so nice to them. Wait till I see them again. The imagination. Look at what we have used this power for. Unconsciously, unwisely, negatively. I could give you 100 examples, but you don't need any more, you know. Look at how few times in your life and mine we have used this faculty deliberately and consistently to shape and to form our lives, to see what was not there yet. We've been so busy seeing our experience and imagining our experience, the one that has already happened, that we don't like. And we repeat it again and again because not only do we see it, but we respond emotionally to it and wonder where our life is coming from. It's coming right out of our mind because we are creating the same events over and over again, and we will not use this marvelous faculty to go beyond our experience to see what has not happened and to get the feeling for that which has not happened so that it becomes more real than the past. Until that which has not been experienced becomes more real than that which has been, it cannot be our own. Conceive means to relate ideas or feelings to one another in a pattern. To imagine is literally to form a mental image of something. To conceive is to comprehend through the intellect something not perceived through the senses. Until you and I can conceive of a whole new life, circumstances and events, and can actually, upon the screen of our minds, observe ourselves marching majestically and joyfully and functionally into that experience, we cannot have it. We cannot have it. A young man called me yesterday. Let's call him Joseph, or Bartholomew, or Nathaniel, because Bartholomew or Nathaniel in the New Testament is the name of the disciple who represents the faculty of the imagination in a person. I'll explain to you why we will call him by this name, because this young man represents the early unconscious negative use of the imagination that you and I know so much about. It's the same negative use that got Joseph in trouble with his brothers and placed him in bondage in Egypt. But you know, Joseph woke up. Are you and I waking up? Are we waking up now to a more creative and conscious and deliberate use of our imagination so that we also might become wise and wealthy and powerful and generous as Joseph was? Good. Now back to our friend. This young man has been here several times. And he is of good birth, meaning, like Joseph, he has all of the things in life we would call advantages. We're all of good birth because we all have the same parent. Right? But this young man has it all handed to him. A prosperous family, an excellent education with the promise of a marvelous future in one of the healing professions, a healthy and handsome body, a sharp mind, a most pleasing, soft personality. Nothing is missing from his life. But wait a minute. There is something missing. Deep inside himself, he doesn't believe this. Deep inside himself, he has another image of himself. Another I am age. That's what an image is. I am this thing that I believe I am. You see, he doesn't feel what he is. He feels what he is not. See, he is Jacob believing that he is Esau. Do you follow me? He's in conflict with himself. He told me the story of how that when he was much younger, his older brother, whom we will call Esau. True story. Helped him to conceive of himself as an inferior person. His older brother was a more physical person. He was a more intellectual, soft, gentle, spiritual person. And his brother had some highly uncomplimentary things to say to him about people like him. And he took them to be true. His brother could not be wrong, could he? And so he has been acting out these two experiences. Top of his class always, the best grades, and yet inwardly the feeling of a failure, believing that who would want to be with him or hear what he had to say? No one here has ever felt like that. You've never had an image of yourself that was less than what you are, have you? What is this image that you have of yourself right now? Because that image is your prosperity, or it is your poverty. And nothing can change for you until that image, that concept, what you have conceived about yourself, is your outer experience of yourself. What your imagination has caused you to believe to be true and to feel. If you have a low image of yourself, you have a low profile in life as your experience. And all of the effort that you can possibly make at the physical or mental level to change that will not change your life one whit from now till then, whenever then happens to be. Unless we can begin to use this faculty of the mind to conceive differently a new conception, a new idea, and the feelings that correspond about the kind of person that I really am. Remember, Laban said to Jacob when Jacob was poor, "What shall I give to you?" And Jacob said to him, "You shall give me nothing." And then he took hold of his creative imagination and changed everything in his life. But in order to take hold of our creative imagination, we have to consciously call it into service. Now listen to the story of how the master teacher called this faculty into service, not only for himself, but taught us how to do it. And he did this before he performed his first miracle. Are you ready to perform your first miracle? Real miracle? Well, these faculties, and especially this one, must be called into service. He had just called Philip. And remember last week we worked with Philip the faculty of the power of the spoken word, and I hope this week you have been speaking the word to yourself. You've been declaring the word. Now the next faculty that was called was Nathaniel or Bartholomew in the other Gospels. Now Philip went off to look for Nathaniel, looking for him. What does the imagination do? It looks, it observes, it's the eye of the mind. And Philip told him, "We have found the Messiah, the very person Moses and the prophets told about. His name is Jesus, the son of Joseph, from Nazareth." Nazareth, exclaimed Nathaniel, or imagination, the negative use of the imagination. Can anything good come from there? Remember that Nazareth was the inner city of that day. We think of it as a nice little quiet country place that Jesus came from. It was a place, it was the other side of the railroad tracks. And so the imagination, judging by appearances, says, nothing good can come out of Nazareth. Why are you telling me this about some guy from Nazareth? And Philip said, just come and see for yourself. Come and see for yourself. As they approached, Jesus said, here comes an honest man, a true son of Israel, a true son of the fully developed person, a true faculty of the mind. In the other translation, it says, one without guile, meaning that the faculty of the imagination cannot lie. What it sees, it reports. You can't have two experiences. What you imagine and what you experience. That would be lying. The imagination is honest because what you imagine is what you experience. It is without guile. It is honest. How do you know what I am like? Nathanael demanded, and Jesus replied, I could see you under the fig tree before Philip found you. Not with the eye, he could not see him. He was out of range of the vision. But he could see him there with the creative, spiritual use of the imagination. He saw Nathanael before Philip got to him. You must see your life, your good, before you get to it. If you're waiting to see it with your eye so that you can see it, you will never see it with your eye until you see it before you get to it. That's the creative use of the imagination. And here it is. Nathanael replied, Sir, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel. And Jesus asked him, Do you believe all this just because I told you I had seen you under the fig tree? You will see greater proofs than this. You will see heaven open and the thoughts of God, the angels of God, coming back and forth to me, the Messiah. And the creative imagination, when we call it forth, will see these ideas that come from a higher dimension of life. Now, many of you here have known a lot, have been taught a lot about treasure mapping. And there's a little booklet in our book room, What Treasure Mapping Can Do for You, by Mary Catherine McDougall. It's an excellent little book. Treasure mapping, though, basically is a person imaging having something. I would like to change that term to image molding. Changing our image of ourselves, not as having, but as being. Because if we become wealthy, if we become the prosperity that we are, we will have all the things that a wealthy person has, that a wise person has. If I can change my image of myself and see myself as one who is having these exciting experiences, then I don't have to work on an exciting experience. I'm working on becoming the person that has many exciting experiences. And they naturally, beautifully, effortlessly happen to us, just as the example I gave before class tonight about television and radio appearances. These experiences come and knock upon your door and declare themselves to be there because you have seen them with the imagination before you saw them with the eye. Dr. Elmer Green, at the healing conference that we had at Cobo Hall not long ago, said that the temples in India are covered with many gods, many demons, all of which are in man. You are the temple of God. And this temple of God has been covered with many gods, many pictures. All of the pictures, all of the images that you have plastered upon this creative self of you through the use of your imagination, they have become our experience. You see, all of the body is in the mind, and the body is the densest section of the mind. And our outer experiences are all in the mind. And we have been changing the demons that we have plastered the temple with. We're going to continue to use this week that follows the creative faculty of the imagination to cover the temple with some new images of God, God-like images. We're going to behold ourselves in an entirely new way using the principle of treasure mapping or of image molding. A number of years ago, when the awareness of the absolute necessity of the creative use of this faculty of the mind came to me, I took several weeks and I made an album of pictures and of statements for myself. I'd like to share some of these with you, and I know that you will enter into the spirit of the thoughts that are here. I call this, and I looked through many, many magazines, some of inspirational nature and some like Playboy. Wherever there was a magazine, I looked through it to find the picture or the thought that day that I wanted to fit into this album. And I called it an album of intrigue and the winning rewards of a one-time loser named Jack. And here I said, someone looking out over the beach, boundless prosperity is for you. And here remember the advertisement that had an umbrella, a life insurance advertisement with an umbrella that covers everything? Well, I changed the caption to say, I am covers everything. Who I believe I am covers everything in my life, doesn't it? That's the umbrella that I carry over my head. Who you think you are is the umbrella that you're walking around under. Did you know that? And so we're here to change who we think we are. A man who with all his mind and heart converts the commonplace of dream and desire. Now, I never knew that I would be reading these to you, so it's almost embarrassing. Not really. I'm hard to embarrass. As a matter of fact, this week when you're making your own, if you don't put some pictures and some statements in it that embarrass you, it's not worth 2 cents. If you don't shock yourself, if you just put nice little things that you believe in there about yourself, it will be so Mickey Mouse because you really believe you're Mickey Mouse, don't you? Now, when you can say the nicest, richest, most complete genius in the United States, high in spirits and knee-deep in talent, with magnificent Midas touches, that's what I put in mine. You start out good and you end up good. I have God-given confidence. You're twice as smart as you think. And many, many, many other marvelous statements that I still love. You can see how worn it is, and I still keep it beside my bed and use it. Will the real me please stand up? An unknown saint, a gentle genius, and some other things that I won't read to you. Will you begin the process of your own image molding book and begin to visualize the kind of person that you are and put in here the pictures of the kinds of experiences that you want to have and the kinds of relationships that fantastic kind of person must be experiencing, surrounded by the kinds of possessions that naturally flow into the life of such a dynamic and worthwhile, intelligent person such as you are. You're going to come out of Egypt. You'll be second to the Pharaoh. There'll only be one power greater than you, and that will be God. God first. You will find that as you use with excitement, with joy, this creative faculty of your mind, that ideas and enthusiasm and inspiration will flow to you that will absolutely amaze you. Now, in this week that follows, if you've been limited in your life, you need to capture the feeling of how it might be to prosper. Get the feeling for it. So let your imagination take you to the desired thinking, feeling experience that will correspond to the pictures that you're going to form and the captions that will accompany those pictures. And each day, several times a day, step 1, relax, become centered and still. And step 2, imagine a scene in the mind's eye that would indicate fulfillment in some area of your experience. Visualize it. Let it take form and shape and color, and then get the feeling for it. That's step 3. Feel it to be true right now. Don't think of some future time or how it's going to come to pass. How is not your business. That's God's business. And step 4, let this knowing feeling be a permanent part of your consciousness. Return to it again and again. Build it into your consciousness so that it is your new idea of yourself. It is you. It becomes you. It's the umbrella that you carry over yourself. You say, this is what I am, and it's God's good pleasure to see to the fulfillment of this new idea because I totally accept it as being true. Do this and you'll have a good day, and you'll shape for yourself a beautiful life. So it is.
This concludes the lesson on tape number 7. Now proceed to tape number 8 for the continuation of Prosperity Principles That Work.